Welcome to this edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Brittany Ramsey. It was a devastating week for the town of Schreiber after Mayor Dave Hamilton passed away suddenly on Saturday evening. It's been confirmed Hamilton was involved in a motor vehicle collision on Highway 17 while he was returning home from a meeting. Adam Riley has more.
Police confirmed late in the afternoon on February 14th that the victim of a two-vehicle collision on Highway 17 between Marathon and Terrace Bay the previous evening was 69-year-old Schreiber Mayor Dave Hamilton. The collision occurred shortly before 7:30 west of the Little Pick River Bridge. An OPP release states officers found a tractor-trailer unit in the eastbound ditch and a pickup truck in the westbound lane against the guardrails. Hamilton was the sole occupant of the pickup truck and was pronounced deceased at the scene. Hamilton spent 6 years as a councillor before successfully earning the mayor's seat in 2018. He served on many boards and committees, including the Thunder Bay District Board of Health and the Thunder Bay District Municipal League. Marathon Mayor and TBDML President Rick Dumas confirmed Hamilton had been attending a league meeting in Marathon Saturday. He says he got to know Hamilton very well over the last decade, adding they both shared a common bond of caring about and being involved in their communities.
I've known Dave for a lot of years as a councillor, and then of course the mayor and Schreiber throughout our different meetings with Thunder Bay District Municipal League, as well as NOMA, meeting in Toronto, meeting as local mayors here regionally and throughout the North Shore. It's a really devastating blow to the community of Schreiber as well as to the district, and just going to miss Dave completely.
Similar sentiments were expressed by many of Hamilton's colleagues, including neighboring Terrace Bay Mayor Jody Davis, who had known Hamilton for over 3 decades.
He was a proud husband, father, and grandfather, and valued and respected leader of his town and in the district. He will be missed. We will miss you, David.
Hamilton leaves behind a wife, a son, a daughter, and 2 grandsons. An investigation into the crash is still ongoing, with possible charges pending. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Power problems have residents of the remote community of Muskrat Dam facing a possible evacuation. This follows several days of difficulty at the community diesel power plant that left just one of their 3 generators operational. That 3rd unit also failed overnight Monday, leaving the community of 300 completely without power for several hours. While emergency repairs eventually got that generator back in service, the situation remains precarious. Muskrat Dam Chief Gordon Beardy says with over 75% of their homes dependent on electrical or oil heat, an extended outage would leave homes and pipes vulnerable to freezing and could also lead to flood damage. A state of emergency has been in effect in the community since February 6th. Officials with Indigenous Services Canada confirmed this week that the ministry is working with Obasamong First Nation officials to establish more isolation areas as the community grapples with a recent surge of COVID-19. First Nation, located about 95 kilometers northwest of Kenora, imposed a strict lockdown earlier this month. As of Thursday, nearly 130 people there had tested positive. 71 of those cases were still active at that time. Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller and ministry officials addressed the situation on the ground at a news conference on Wednesday afternoon.
We've been in a number of calls to see whatever they need to get some help, whether that's more help in tracking, tracing, and isolating to really tamp down the virus. It's a scary moment for them.
The priority right now is to ramp up access to isolation spaces in the community or outside the community. So we are working with the community on those options. The community has made it clear that they want to make decisions with respect to where those spaces would be located. We are working with them to retrofit quickly some of the existing buildings in the community, including sort of having extra heating capacity for some of those spaces so they could be accommodated. We do have a Blue Med tent there that is operational for screening and testing and assessment, and we're looking at mobilizing 2 additional units in order to be able to do that.
Obasamong Chief Waylon Scott could not be reached for comment on that situation. Meanwhile, the Northwestern Health Unit set a record high for its number of active cases this week. As of Friday, the district had 107 cases, 101 in the Kenora region. The The western part of the region remains in the yellow zone of the provincial response framework, despite the recent spike in cases. 19 new were announced Friday, all of them in the Kenora area, including one involving a staff member at Beaver Brae High School. The vast majority of the area's active cases are located in the Wabaseemoong First Nation, north of Kenora. Last week, Premier Doug Ford posed the option of an emergency brake that could be used to move regions into lockdown if necessary or if COVID variants are found. Well, so far, there have been no variants reported in the Northwest.
At this point, most of the cases in the Kenora area are localized to one community. So the idea of using an emergency brake does not seem relevant at this point for the entire catchment area of Northwestern Health Unit. So that's not something we're considering at this time.
There's a little angst in the community, but the reality is it's under control, and we just have to ensure that we continue to follow the rules so we don't compound the situation. So, the next 7 to 10 days will be very critical.
Dr. Young-Hoon says they could implement further limitations on businesses in a specific area if necessary. Thunder Bay has a new COVID-19 vaccination center, and its capabilities far surpass that of the former site. Just 168 immunizations could be completed per day at the old location next to the regional hospital. But the new clinic at Lakehead University could triple the number of daily doses. Corey Nordstrom has more.
Lakehead University's Boralaskan Education Building is now being used to administer the COVID-19 vaccine, with 200 slated to be complete on opening day, and that capacity will soon grow.
By Monday, we expect to do 500 to 600 vaccines per day, and there is a potential to be able to move north of that. Rate limiting factor right now is vaccine availability.
The hospital's CEO wouldn't say how many doses of the Pfizer vaccine had been received in their latest shipment, though it won't be long before they have even more doses in-house.
5,600 is our anticipated number by end of day Sunday. That said, we're still in the booking process, so that's not a firm number. We will expect more vaccines coming on a weekly basis. We have validated shipments coming.
The hospital has already been contacted by members of the public looking to book their vaccinations. But during this phase, the hospital is only immunizing those in 3 priority groups, including long-term care staff, essential care partners, and high-risk healthcare workers.
Anybody coming to the Boralaskan needs to come to an appointment, and they have to have a pre-booked appointment time. And their queuing or their ability to receive a vaccine needs to be validated by ourselves and Thunder Bay District Health Unit.
Meanwhile, the regional's COVID unit continues to fill up. There are now 13 COVID-positive patients, with 4 of those in the intensive care unit. Their designated COVID-19 unit has just 13 beds, so hospital officials are planning to expand it in the same week it was reopened.
We are looking to reduce some of the long stay surgical procedure bookings and move to more short stay and same day bookings in preparation for a potential expansion of the COVID-19 unit.
More than 250 hospital staff in the highest risk category have been vaccinated, and they're looking to have 1,000 of the highest priority level through the doors of the new vaccination clinic by the end of the weekend. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Concerns continue to grow over a proposed change to the deployment of ambulances in the region. A final decision has yet to be made, but potential changes would reduce the number of ambulance bases in district communities. And it appears several area First Nations were left out of the consultation process. Adam Riley has details.
Proposed changes to ambulance service along the North Shore is being met with more opposition. The proposal will see the amalgamation of the bases in Terrace Bay and Schreiber, as well as in Nipigon and Red Rock. It is also looking at the closure of the Beardmore ambulance base. The loss of a base situated within town boundaries of Red Rock isn't sitting well with Mayor Darkeese Robinson, who says there will be a loss of coverage. Currently, the area has 24-hour coverage of 2 ambulances during both the day and night shifts, which allows for patient transfers or serious incidents to not hinder response times.
They don't say it, but it would be reducing EMS services down to 1 car during the day and 1 car at night. Currently, we have 2 during the day and 2 at night. So you have 24-hour coverage, right? Both communities. We cover all the way to Shunya, the line there halfway to Schreiber, so Gravel River.
Robinson, like many other mayors, is also opposed to the lack of consultation that occurred. Those concerns are also being echoed by the area's First Nation leaders, who say they weren't consulted at all. Red Rock Indian Band Chief Marcus Hardy says they were given no notice or information regarding EMS base closures or amalgamations.
When we did get the notice, it was quite surprising. And that's, I guess, when everything really transpired. I met with other First Nation chiefs, and they share the same concerns that we have. However, they're more close in proximity to the Beardmore station that will be closed, that will potentially be shut down here.
Hardy says the Quad Council, which is made up of the councils of his community, Nipigon, Red Rock, and Dorian, have all been discussing this issue, and believes the next steps are to either ask for an explanation or to initiate proper consultation between EMS and both First Nation and municipal partners. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Meanwhile, discussions regarding the EMS 10-year master plan continued at Terrace Bay Council this week. The plan would see both the Terrace Bay and Schreiber EMS stations decommissioned and replaced with a new combined facility. Similar plans have been made for the Nipigon and Red Rock stations, and a full closure of the Beardmore station is also planned. Some of the resources would then be reallocated for EMS in the city of Thunder Bay. According to Councillor Bert Johnson, this plan was a very controversial discussion at a Thunder Bay District Municipal League meeting on February 13th. Mayor Jody Davis says he's upset that Thunder Bay City Council opted to endorse the plan without proper consultation with the municipalities and First Nations that would be affected.
The bottom line, as I see it, Bert, is that they pulled one over on us.
Yep.
And I'm not very happy that the meeting that Mayor Hamilton and I went to Thunder Bay and made our deputation, they had a closed session in the beginning of that, and they discussed that. We were never made aware by the mayor or council, any councillor, that they agreed to that, and that would, when they passed the budget, that was part of their budget that the changes would be made. That is the very first I've heard of that.
Discussions are now underway between the affected communities and First Nations to fight the decision, including a planned protest. An adjudicator has ruled that 3 Thunder Bay police officers involved in the 2015 death investigation of Rainy River First Nation man Stacey DeBungy can face a disciplinary hearing. The original death investigation was found to be insufficient. Police ruled out foul play just one day after DeBungy's body was found in the McIntyre River. The 3 officers can't be named at this point due to a publication ban. Their lawyer had argued that the OIPRD took too long to recommend police act charges of neglect of duty and discreditable conduct. The act requires that to happen within 6 months of a complaint, but the OIPRD took 22 months to complete its probe into police conduct. In a 17-page decision published Wednesday, retired Justice Lee Ferrier ruled that the delay was reasonable, largely due to the fact that the OIPRD was also conducting a broader investigation into the city police service at the time, which found systemic racism within the force. Ferrier also notes there's a strong public interest in seeing the disciplinary hearing move forward. Coming up after the break, local politicians react to new firearms regulations proposed by the federal government. Politicians in the Northwest are reacting to the federal government's proposed new firearms legislation. The changes, announced Tuesday, are meant to keep Canadians safe and guns out of the hands of dangerous individuals. The most notable change would see municipalities decide whether or not to ban handguns in their community rather than a national implementation. Avery McRae has details.
Following the deadliest mass shooting in Canada's history, which claimed the lives of 22 people in Nova Scotia in April, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau pledged to increase firearm regulations. On Wednesday, Trudeau announced new gun control legislation that would include a buyback program for beared firearms, increase criminal penalties for gun smuggling and trafficking, and allow municipalities to ban handguns. When the pledge first came in the spring of 2020, Thunder Bay Mayor Bill Morrow asked City Police Chief Sylvie Hoff for her thoughts and recommendations on the handgun ban, but the pair decided to wait until the bill was tabled at the House of Commons.
But it looks like there may be some detail there for her to sink her teeth into. So next month at our Police Services Board, I will ask if it's possible for her to bring us a report with her recommendations or thoughts on this.
A lot of uncertainty around actually what firearms are actually going to be prohibited now moving forward. There's, there's so many questions that still need to be answered, and I think that's something that's problematic for a lot of people.
Bill C-21 comes 9 months after the Liberals announced a ban on the use, sale, and importation of over 1,500 makes and models of military-grade assault weapons. Eric Malillo is a Conservative MP for the Kenora riding and says the bill will not reduce crime, citing the vast majority of gun crimes are committed with illegally obtained firearms. Malillo adds by not implementing a national handgun ban, the federal government is merely passing the buck to cities and towns.
They're looking to create arbitrary bans or encourage potentially municipalities to create arbitrary bans that we don't think are going to be effective anyway. So why are we wasting our time moving forward on this is really the frustration that I'm feeling, as I know many in Northwestern Ontario are feeling as well.
If a city like Toronto banned handguns, but a city right next door like Hamilton did not, I think this is the part that has, municipal people across the country wondering why they haven't taken a national approach if they feel like there is a benefit to banning handguns.
There is no timeline to when the city would need to make a decision on a potential handgun ban. Avery McRae, TBT News.
The Nature Conservancy of Canada has purchased an island in Lake of the Woods from the city of Kenora. Town Island is located 7 kilometers south of the city, and the land will now be protected from development. However, before things can be finalized, the Conservancy must fundraise $2.85 million to officially purchase the island. Avery McRae has more.
After over a year of negotiations, the Nature Conservancy of Canada and the city of Kenora have come to an agreement for the sale of Town Island. The 202 acres of land purchased by the nonprofit organization will be protected from development and preserved for future generations to enjoy. When the idea of selling the island was first discussed among council, Kenora Mayor Dan Reynard always planned to keep the land untouched.
The goal of the city was always to leave it in its natural state. It's a big tract of property out on the lake. People camp there, people pull up and boat, picnic, swim. So it was important that it remain in its natural. That was always our goal.
It's rare to find 200 acres of connected, intact natural forest. And though Lake of the Woods is a wilderness, there are certainly a lot of development areas. And it was just sort of married with the threat of what could have happened here and the great biodiversity values. It just became an obvious place where we'd want to keep things as they were and make them better if we can.
The NCC will have to raise $2.25 million to purchase the island from Kenora, with the city putting the money into its reserves. The Conservancy will also have to raise an additional $600,000 towards preservation of the land and other costs. The city will chip in $75,000 towards island preservation, and the Conservancy only has until August of 2022 to raise the funds.
So we're really going to be relying on some of our partners and donors on the lake to help us get this one across the finish line.
We'll have to wait and see, but both parties are really confident that the sale will go through in the summer of 2022.
The Nature Conservancy will host a virtual event in March to kick off the fundraising. Donation towards the purchase can be made anytime on the group's website. Avery McRae, TBT News.
A new bylaw passed on Tuesday will help bring the town of Red Rock closer to the construction of a new subdivision in the community.
Moved by Sarah, seconded by Melissa, be resolved that a bylaw introduced being a bylaw to adopt a policy for sale and other disposition of land be read a third and finally passed number 2021-1225 and the sale of municipality placed thereon. All in favor?
In a unanimous decision, the town has sold a section of land to Bruno's Contracting for $88,500. A new subdivision will be built there. Discussions, which included several public meetings, have been going on for months as council had to make amendments to the official plan to allow for the sale. The subdivision is expected to contain 19 single-family dwellings, 24 townhomes, and 60 condominium and apartment units. Shovels are expected to be in the ground later this year once the proper site work and environmental assessments are complete. A man is in hospital recovering from severe injuries following a snowmobile incident near Sioux Lookout Wednesday. OPP say the man collided with a tree east of Pelican Falls Road. It took rescuers 2 hours to locate and rescue the man in minus 27-degree weather. He is listed to be in stable condition. Meanwhile, a Dryden family is without a home following a devastating fire on Kearney Hill Court earlier this month. Crews with the Dryden Fire Service responded to the blaze around 4:30 p.m. on February 13th. 2 homes and 3 vehicles were fully engulfed. In addition to the flames, firefighters had to battle temperatures as low as minus 40. Fire Chief Kent Redmond says one of the homes and all of the vehicles are a complete loss, but fortunately no injuries were reported. The cause of the fire remains unknown and the investigation is underway. When we come back, culinary students from Confederation College take to the Big Lake to gather ingredients for their dishes. Students enrolled in Confederation College's culinary management program were treated to a bit of a field trip this week. Instead of going to the market for their ingredients, they ended up going straight to the source, Lake Superior. Adam Riley has details.
It's a windy, snowy, desolate place, but 6 miles out into Black Bay on Lake Superior is where 24 students from Confederation College's culinary management program found themselves this week, searching for ingredients for their next dish, perch and northern pike. Program coordinator Ken Veneru says he has been working on a field trip like this for some time.
Just to give them an experience of doing something different, something that we do in Northwestern Ontario. It ties into the culinary aspect. It ties into the Indigenous learning aspect of farm to table, to dealing with the resources we have naturally in Northwestern Ontario.
One of those students was second-year Jasdeep Kaur, who almost landed herself one of the northern pike until she was beset with the luck of many, a broken fishing line. But she remained optimistic nonetheless.
Actually, it is my first experience and it's a really fun. I'm enjoying. We right now caught a fish and we lost it. I think because of the first time, if I'll come again, for sure it will be better.
Would you do this again?
Of course, I love it. So I'll do it again. For the next time, I'm pretty sure I will catch one. Not one, more.
Fortunately, the students managed to catch enough to make some fish tacos. While those dishes are often made using tilapia or cod, Venaru says pike and perch will make a unique local texture.
The fish is going to be fantastic. You know, people sometimes are a little afraid of dealing with pike because it's a little more challenging to fillet, but we're going to show them the 5-fillet method and they'll have another experience of how to deal with fish in Northwestern Ontario.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
That's all for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.